Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Mari B. Today we have a special show to honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer is a group of diseases in which cells in the breast tissue change and divide uncontrolled, typically resulting in a lump or a mass. Breast cancer typically has no symptoms when the tumor is small and most easily treated, which is why screening is important for early detection. Breast cancer estimates in 2019, 270,000 new cases among women and 2,700 among men, which is a 1% of the women's cases. We highly encourage you to educate yourself on how to do self exams and consult your medical professional. Breast cancer survivors often face challenges in overcoming their illness and the emotional affliction that it may bring. It takes courage to share your journey and relive some of those tough times. However, opening and expressing your journey can also help those that are going through a similar journey. Today, we have a breast cancer survivor talk about her journey and emotions that led to new opportunities and meeting people that will need for her guidance. We understand this may help someone that is watching and keep building their courage. Our breast cancer survivor will speak on what gave her hope and how she has helped others. We would like to welcome Krystal. It's such a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, it's going to be such an honor today. We want to start off by thanking you for allowing us to really get transparent with your story that has changed your life. And since then, Krystal, you have chosen to be a light for those women going through similar experiences as well as empowering them. And that's huge. So I want to kind of start off with introducing yourself and take us back on how your life was before you began this journey.
Yeah, so I am a now 34-year-old woman. 2 years ago, my life was, I wish I could say before cancer, my life was just like butterflies and rainbows and great, but I was actually in a really bad place in life. I had just finished nursing school. That part was great, but I was in a very toxic marriage, and that was it was ending. We were getting divorced. I had two small children at the time. My son was 1 and my daughter was 5, and I didn't really know what was going on. I was lost. I was trying to just go through the motions of going to work every day and becoming a newly single mom and going through the motions of getting a divorce, which is never fun for anybody, especially when it's a bad situation. So all of that was going on, and then bam, you got cancer. So
Well, and we want to kind of talk about that day that you heard that. So tell us about what you remember on September 27th of 2018.
So September 27th, I had went to a place because I had found a lump to get a mammogram initially. That's how it started. And I've had cancer in the past, so my doc didn't hesitate. She's like, "Hey, we need you to just go get it checked. It's probably nothing." And I'm like, "Okay, it's probably nothing." And I don't know. I had this really weird feeling about it. Like, normally I put things off. I'm horrible about it. I procrastinate. But I was like, no, I need to follow through. So I go get the mammogram. All right. And these places, they have these pink roses they give to you to like make you, feel better, I guess, when you leave. And so the first time I went, they're like, here's this pink rose. And I was like, I'm not taking that. Like, if I take that, it means I have cancer. Like, in my head, that rose represented me having cancer. And I was like, done that, not doing that again. No thanks. So pass on the rose. I'm going to leave. Well, then they call me back and they're like, we need you to come in for a level 2 and we need you to get a biopsy. And I'm like, oh man. So I do that. And I remember getting the biopsy and just the way that the doctor was acting and how everything was. And when I was leaving, they're like, here's this pink rose. And I'm like, I don't want the rose. And they kind of forced it, like, take the rose. And I was like, I don't want the damn rose. But I took it and I sobbed on the way out because I knew, like, I had this like sinking, horrible feeling. Like, that rose meant I had cancer. Like I knew it. And it's strange. I don't know why I felt like that. I just did. And so that was about 3 or 4 days prior to the 27th. Fast forward, because I was anticipating a call. I'm in the car with my kids in the morning, and I was actually on the way to take them. I was letting my daughter go to school a little late. I was going to take her to like a breakfast because things had just been stressful with the divorce and going to get a biopsy and all of that. And my daughter's 5 at the time. My son is 1. They're both in the back seat. First thing in the morning, I get a phone call, and it's my doctor's office. And I answer, and she's on Bluetooth. And I said, hello. And she goes, can we talk? So I pull over into a gas station. This is where I always get emotional. I didn't want my kids to hear, because my daughter's like very, dang it, I'm doing it already. My daughter she's always been very smart, very intuitive, asks a million questions, nosy, just like her mom. I said, yeah, let me take you off of Bluetooth. And I said, I didn't even let her say anything. I said, it's cancer. And she goes, how did you know? Did you have a feeling? And I said, yes. And of course, I just start losing it, but trying to control it because I have 2 children in the back seat. And like, I'm just like, yeah, I know. But at that moment, of course, you get like this flood of like, I'm terrified, I'm angry, I'm sad, and I'm trying to bottle it all up because I have these 2 little people looking at me, and like, can't freak out. Like, I want to freak out. I'm screaming inside, but I just have to like hold it together. And I am so appreciative now looking back, because then the doctor goes, listen, we have a surgeon that can get you in today to discuss everything and your options. And I was like, I mean, it's a whirlwind hitting me. My whole life is about to change. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, I'll go, obviously. Like, and now looking back, I realize what a blessing that is, because the scary part, besides the cancer part, which just happened to me, is not knowing what the heck is going to happen next, like having no plan. And now that I know more women that have been through this, they didn't have a plan for months. Some of them didn't have a doctor or a surgeon. So that was such a blessing. But I'm sorry, excuse me, allergies. But yeah, after that phone call, I just, my mind was racing. I had my best friend coming into town from Odessa. I was about to take my kids to breakfast, and now I'm going to meet a surgeon because I have cancer again. There's no words really to say what that feels like.
Yeah, and I kind of want to kind of stop right there, because you keep saying you had cancer again. So tell us a little bit. You had cancer in your lifetime before. Let's talk a little bit about that before we now uncover this new diagnosis that you found out on September 27th.
Right. So I was 3 years old, and my parents took me to the doctor because I was having trouble breathing, and they found this massive tumor like in my chest. And I ended up being diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic lymphoma. Luckily for me, with children that have it, there's a very high survival rate. But that being said, I did chemo and radiation on and off for 2 years of my life. So from 3 to 5, I was in and out of hospitals getting treatment for cancer. I lost my hair. I did the whole thing then. And I actually followed up. I mean, after the fact, I followed up with an oncologist at the age of, I think, 24 years old, because I was told you need to follow up yearly, follow up with an oncologist. And at 24, I was given the go ahead. They're like, look, you don't smoke, you don't drink. They weren't sure at that point, because we're talking 30 years ago, if I would be able to have children, if I would, what the effects of my treatment would be. And, everything seemed relatively normal for the most part. So at 24, he's like, you don't smoke, you're healthy, you work out, you exercise, you eat okay. You have just as much chance as anyone else to get cancer. And I'm like, cool, I'm out. I don't have to come to oncologists anymore.
Yeah.
Wrong. I was wrong.
Well, and you were 2 to 5 at that age. So now let's go back to September 27th. And when you heard that, did any of those feelings from when you had cancer the first time, Did any of that kind of resurface whenever you heard that? I mean, I know you were trying to be strong because you had two little ones in the back seat, but did you almost like feel like you were back into that world?
I honestly, some of my first memories are of cancer treatments or being sick or even a spinal tap. But it's so weird to have it as an adult because no, I can't say that it in any way reminded me of being a child and having cancer because children don't do what adults do. Children live their day by day. They're sick in the moment, and then they're happy and they want to play. Like when you don't feel pity for yourself, you don't feel all these fears, the weight of the world. Like I have two kids relying on me, and now I have to like get through this and take care of them and like all of those things. You don't have that pressure as a child. As a child, children are so resilient and they live in the moment. And like, so no, I was terrified. I don't think as a kid I realized what was happening. It was just my normal for a little while and then it wasn't.
Right. Right. And now you didn't mention whenever you got that call, they wanted you to come in to already hear your options. So did you feel on either that day or even in that week, let's just be honest, that you knew everything that you needed to know about breast cancer?
I think I was extremely lucky and blessed with the doctors, and not just one, but like the multiple that at 32 told me I could go get a mammogram, because a lot of doctors will be like, you're too young, and that's the end of it. So from that person, she was my OBGYN, my gyno, like she followed through, and she was like the first domino in the effect. So like, I'm absolutely lucky that happened. And so there was again, this process for like a week or two where I felt like I didn't know what was happening, but it was more just out of shock than because I wasn't informed. I had from the get-go doctors telling me exactly what to expect. That is not the situation with a lot of women, and I feel extremely blessed and lucky that my situation was like that.
Yeah, and let's talk for those that may be watching that are going through that or have been through that, but like how did you come to educate yourself while fighting all those emotions of being terrified, scared, oh my gosh, my children? How were you able to overcome that to find out the proper knowledge so that you can, get the next solution, which is getting what we're about to talk about here in a second?
So I didn't know a whole lot about breast cancer at the time. And I chalk a lot of it up to my doctors. And because I finished, I had just become a nurse at that point, but because of that, I was able to ask questions that more medical questions. And I have always been the type of person, like, I'm not a glass half empty or a glass half full kind of gal. I'm like, there's a glass, we can have stuff in it or we cannot. But I always want to prepare myself for the worst. So like in my head, as soon as I heard breast cancer, I'm like, double mastectomy, that's what's happening. Well, once I went and talked to him, my doc, he walks in the door, okay, like back to the 27th. I immediately call my aunt and I'm like, I need you to take the kids. I go drop them off. I'll never forget like how when you watch your loved ones, sometimes it sounds crazy, but like, it's even harder to deal with the people that you love at that moment because you're watching them watch you and they're helpless. And like, you want to make them feel better, but you don't even know how to feel about it. So she was just as much shock as me, but of course she took my kids and I'm like, take them. I need to go like do this. And I went into that appointment. And when I did, the doc walks in and he brings an article. This man has been in surgery all day since like 5 a.m. He's amazing. He's incredible. He walks in with this paper and it is an article and it states that children that received excessive amount of radiation to their chest area have almost the same percentage of getting cancer that somebody with a BRCA or a BRCA positive, the genetic markers for breast cancer, has. So wow. that oncologist and he even said, we as like a healthcare system, he's like, we as doctors have let you down. You slipped through the cracks. And again, just taking that when it wasn't even him that told me that, I knew I was in really, really good hands. So, but from the get-go, I was like, I'm getting a double mastectomy. That's what's happening. And he's like, we need to do some more tests. We need to do some scans. Don't jump to that conclusion yet. And there was the option of getting a lumpectomy or getting one, because it was my left breast that I had found the lump in, getting just the left breast taken. And at this point, I'm like, I'm 32 years old. This is the second time in my life I've had cancer. I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. I need to at least make it to they're out of the house. So I asked him, I was just like, and he was very transparent about like, is this going to reoccur? Is it possible if it reoccurs? And what's the best option to make sure that it doesn't? And he's like, a double mastectomy. I'm like, well, then there's no question for me. Like that was my choice. That being said, I think one of the biggest things I want to stress for like any person going through this is you have options. You do not have to go with the first one that a doctor gives you. You don't have to go with something and not get a second opinion. I know it seems like a whirlwind is hitting you, but like there are lumpectomies, there are mastectomies, there are different reconstructive options. There are so many things. Some people need chemo, some people need radiation, some people need both or none. So it is not a one-stop shop. And the biggest thing is to find a doctor that you trust and you feel like is being honest with you and not just going through the motions. If you have that doctor, find somebody else.
Yeah. And I want to talk about some of these treatment process, because you never know who we can help that is watching. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. Now, I know you kind of mentioned the whirlwind of you dealing with your own emotions while wrapping your head around it, and then having your loved ones there. So just for those that are watching that may help, who did you tell? And was it at the same time that you found out? I know you have that aunt that had to take your children. So I think that was probably a no-brainer, but was there any other loved ones that you kind of let them know, or was it after you wrapped your head around it?
No, I was everyone that I was really close to, knew that I was getting a biopsy, and they were all positive. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So they knew. And then with my situation with my divorce, like that was still very fresh. So I think he was like the second person I told once I told that aunt, because I didn't know what to do. That had been the person I went to for years. And in fairness, it wasn't an extremely supportive situation. So it wasn't what I needed at that point, but it didn't, like, that's beside the point. I told the people closest to me because I knew I needed to lean. I knew I needed to lean, and they were always there for me through everything else in my life, and I knew they'd be there. So there was basically my two aunts and then my best friend that was in the car driving to spend the weekend with me and have a girls' weekend. I had to call her and tell her, and then she had to spend a 5-hour drive worried about her best friend having breast cancer. Mm-hmm. Those are the main people that I told in that moment. And I didn't want to tell anyone else until I knew what the plan was, because I didn't want to answer any questions without answers.
Right. And I know that's what we're going to kind of get into next, is kind of uncover that chapter. But before we do that, we do have a comment, and this is from Kim. Kim is saying, Krystal, you are so courageous to share this journey, as I can only imagine what the moments were like when you got that news. So you do have, people that are watching that are supporting you and really just like, sending you big hugs. So we will go over some of those other comments here in a little bit. So now let's begin that chapter that we're opening up, which is about the treatment process. This is a whole, this can help also other people, but also uncovering your treatment process. So there are many approaches that you can tackle cancer, especially breast cancer. So you kind of mentioned a few choices earlier, and the decision that you went with. But let's talk about some of those details on, what those options really meant if you didn't choose the option that you did go, and why you were so solid with that decision.
So again, I had the option of a lumpectomy, and some people may not know this, but usually when you picture a mastectomy, you think the whole breast is gone and taken. Well, in the last, I guess, couple of years, I don't know exactly when, but my doctor specifically, he said, I specialize in nipple sparing mastectomies, which is huge. Like as a woman, you're already losing your breasts. and then to potentially lose your nipples also. So the option, I didn't even know that was an option. I had already in my head picked out like, was going to get some flower tattoos and try to like just make the best of the situation. But when he said that was an option, he's like, so many times we take the nipple and we don't have to. So essentially what they did with my situation is they go in, they take all of the breast tissue, and then they biopsy the nipple from the inside. And then if it comes back positive or with issue, we can address that later. But there's no point in taking them if they're not affected. Now it has to be like, for me, I was lucky in the sense of like, you have to be a certain amount of centimeters away from the nipple and all of that to even be considered. So I was very lucky. All of this comes down to just like the cards fell where they may, and I ended up on the getting the good part of the stick, I guess. But so for me, a lumpectomy was an option, but I couldn't live with that doubt. I felt like cancer already puts this like metaphorical gun to the back of your head. And now this is my second time. And I want to know that I did everything possible to make sure like my chances are extremely good. So I went ahead and did that. On top of that, for me, it was like about symmetry. Like, I don't want to have one breast removed and another breast. Like, I had already lived some of my life with reconstruction from my radiation that had caused issues. I had already had an implant on one side, and I wanted to feel, again, I'm going into being single again. Like, let's just be honest. Like, that it may seem superficial, but like you get shaken to the core as a woman. Like, if more people looked at a double mastectomy as like somebody losing their leg, like you're essentially getting amputation of something you've had your entire life. And not only something you've had, but society deems makes you a woman or an attractive woman. It's taken from you. And not to mention all the scars, the nerve damage, and everything else that can come along with that. So I did a double mastectomy because that was the best option for me. I got to do a nipple sparing. And then when they did it, they put in expanders immediately. And these expanders are basically hard plastic that will re-stretch the skin out because they've taken everything. So like the days after my mastectomy, just to kind of prep people, if you were curious about like what happens, you usually have some drains, some wound vacs, and these things called JP drains, which are little bulb drains. So you'll have that hanging depending on where they go in, but they went in underneath. I have 2 scars under, and then I had 2 JPs hanging. And those just stay on to help heal your scars and make sure that, you're not getting an infection, which is a really big issue or concern. So I did that. And then I had once those drains were removed, we started doing the expanders, which again is like this really hard plastic. And every week or 2 you go in and they fill it with IV fluid, like normal saline or whatever. They basically stick a little thing in there, and it's kind of cool. It's like a magnet, and it goes boop, and it shows them where the little port is for it. And they put fluid in, and they gradually stretch that breast tissue or that skin back out to where you can have that. Now, there are other options besides implants. That's the option I chose, but they told me I could do something called a deep flap, where they take the lower portion of like your abdomen. It's almost like a tummy tuck, but they'll take the fat and tissue from down there and then put it up where your breasts are. For me, wasn't really a great option just because I didn't have a ton of like extra fat at that point. And another major issue for me personally was, again, I had a 1-year-old that I had to like pick up, move, and do all that. And I'm a pretty active person. They did say that because of the amount of that I had down there, like another option is taking some of the abdomen. And I'm like, I don't want to do all that. I'd rather just get implants and stick with that. And then you have choices on what types of implants. Some women even decide, they've been married or they're older, or, they just don't want to deal with breasts because for them, it's always been, they've been big breasted or whatever. They decide not to get any reconstruction, and like, more power to you. I don't think that there is one way to do it right. I think whatever you feel like gives you the control, because that's the thing. Cancer takes control away from you. It takes everything from you. So if you get to pick one thing that makes you feel like you get a say in your life again, whether it's getting breasts or not, or getting a deep flap or getting implants, like do that. And I wanted implants because I wanted nice, perky, symmetrical boobs.
Yeah, and no, I love how you're sharing those options and your thought process, which may help someone that is probably not able to kind of think it so in depth with control over the situation. So you kind of went over that process of the treatment. Now, did you have to do any type of chemotherapy or anything like that, or anything that may have caused a side effect? Because I know that's something we do see and read as well on options.
So I'll walk you through it. This is the part of the show where I tell you, do not be like Krystal, be an advocate for yourself. I had to learn that later. But again, I was going through like a lot. So I was not an excuse though. Don't be like me in this situation. Okay. Warning. So I found out I in September, October, 2 weeks after I find out, I'm getting a double mastectomy. So I'm processing all of it. I just got a new job as a nurse. I'm already taking 7 weeks off my new job. I have 2 kids now. I'm a single mother. Like I just went through the motions. I didn't realize I needed to follow up because I feel like, again, it was like, it hit you in waves. It's not even real. I'm like, okay, I'm good now. I got the cancer taken off and I'm fine. No, it wasn't until it was 6 months before my reconstruction. So in April, I go and I get my reconstruction, and I'm recovering from that. Another 7 weeks off work, but I'm recovering. I'm like, cool. I'm in the clear. Like everything's fine. Again, amazing doctor. He calls me on the phone. He's like, Krystal, what are you doing? I'm sorry, doc. I know that's probably not what you sound like, but that's what you sound like. And you're amazing. He's like, Krystal, what are you doing? I'm like, sitting on the couch. What are you doing? And he's like, did you ever get your tumor tested? And I said, no, sir. And he goes, I will come to your house and slap you. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, and he's like, I'm sending it in now. You need to follow up with this oncologist. He gives me an oncologist that he trusts, so I know that they're good. And I'm like, crap. Like, what does this mean? He's like, in 3 to 5 weeks, you'll get results. Well, they send it out to California and they run all these tests on it. And in a very general way, I'll just explain it. Basically, if you're over a number, which is like 30 something, I think, then that means you have a high risk of return and metastasizing within 5 years. They do all these different tests on this growth. Mm-hmm. So he tells me this, and he tells me, if this is the case, you will do chemo and you will probably do tamoxifen. And at that point, I'm given the option of, now, do you want to harvest your eggs? Because once this all starts, you're probably not going to be able to have any more children. So if you want to, you need to take your eggs out. And I'm like, again, you're hit with that.
Yeah.
And as a woman, again, you're having things taken from you that make you a woman. So I have 2 children. I'm thinking in my head, am I being ungrateful? But then the other part of me is like, I'm single again. What if I meet a man that I would like to have a child with? All these things are racing through my head, and I can't, like, I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I ultimately decided not to, because I'm like, look, whatever man ends up putting a ring on this finger, he's going to deal with it. He'll be fine with it, and he'll be lucky. You're welcome. But I also just like, I was like, I've been through enough, and I'm not going to like look my gifts in the face, which I have children. And again, I've met multiple women that went through this before they could have children, and they won't have children. So I'm, again, very blessed in that sense. But yeah, that was the option. And so 3 weeks go by, and I already knew, just like I knew about the cancer. I was like, life's just not that easy. I'm going to have to do chemo. I know it. And I actually left that appointment that we were talking with my auntie. And this is one of the other aunts that was like one of my biggest supporters. And she is the most positive, uplifting lady in the world. And we were in the office, and she's like, it's going to be fine. You're not going to need chemo. And I was like, I don't need that right now. Like, I was just so because for me, again, like the type of person that I am, I need to break down and have that moment and like accept the worst. And if it's not, woo, surprise, like life wasn't that bad. But I couldn't live in that world because then it would be crushing for me to like, oh, it's not going to happen. And then it does, you know? So I left that appointment all over again in this emotional roller coaster, sobbing and crying. And I felt like it was freaking unfair. It's super unfair. Like, I've had cancer already. Now I have to have it again. Now I have to go through chemo after I just had these 2 surgeries and a divorce and all these different things. And I'm like, you know, there was a moment where I'm like, what did I do? Like, I wasn't that, I've tried to be a good person. What's going on? You know, you feel like you're being punished. But then I realized, like, now I'm like, cancer is indiscriminatory. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a good person or not. It happens to so many. 1 in 8 get breast cancer. You know, 1 in 3 have it happen again. So anyhow, yeah, that happened. 3 weeks go by. I was actually, now I was harassing my doc after 6 months of ignoring it. I was like, hey, did you get that test back yet? Hey, can I get that test back? And he's like, you have to talk to your oncologist. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because there's steps you have to go through. So I called that office and they didn't have like an appointment for like a month, but she fit me in. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm going to go crazy. Please just, so she fit me in. Cause again, she's incredible. And I went in and she told me, you got to do 6 months of chemo and you will lose your hair because of what it was. And probably eyebrows, eyelashes. They have come a long way as far as helping with side effects. But I'm going to be honest. The first one is called the Red Devil. And it lives up to its name. It was hell on earth. The first 8 weeks. It was bad. And then after that, I did something called Taxol. And that one, whew, so much better. But there was a lot of side effects with the first one for sure.
And well, let's talk about one of the side effects that you just brought up, which is, you know, you're going to lose your hair. So what were those emotions? I mean, you're talking about a lot of emotional roller coasters. You've already done 2 right now, 2 waves. So what were those emotions that you felt before you cut off your hair and after? And what did it really mean to you? When you're talking about stripping your womanhood, this is another layer to strip away.
Oh yeah. So I had at that point hair down to my butt, like, and I always thought it was like my best feature. I truly did. I'd always get compliments on it and I loved my hair. And I was like, again, the control thing. It taught me how to give up control, but it also taught me to take control of the things I have control of. And I was like, cancer took my breasts. Cancer is going to take my hair, but it's not going to dictate when I take my hair. So I told my friends, I want to have this like big event. Like I couldn't imagine because of how long it was, because it will come out in chunks. And I was like, that'll break me. Again, I know myself too well. And I didn't want to do it at home by myself. I was like, I'm going to do this in front of a crowd because then I'll be strong and like, I'll have all this support. And in 10 days, my sister, one of my other best friends, Sarah, and multiple other people that I cannot like even begin to name all of them, threw this massive like thing called Breast Fest for me in 10 days. Because here's the other thing about cancer. It's expensive. I had extremely good insurance and I had over $8,000 quoted for me for my copays just for that 6 months of chemo.
Wow.
And I didn't know where it was going to come from. Like I didn't have a massive savings waiting for that. So in 10 days, they threw this benefit and I was like, I'm shaving my head in front of everybody. We're doing that. And it was just this like sad, happy, emotional, like in that moment, whenever I did this, I saw so many people come out and support me. And I saw how many people were affected by cancer because that was my event. And I had people walking up to me and they would tell me about their sister or their friend or their loved one that had cancer and either made it or didn't. But like in that moment, like I realized how impactful this disease was in almost everybody's life. They either knew someone or loved someone that had it. So for me, it was about taking control. And again, you have the choice to do it however you want to do it. But that was my way so that I knew I could like be strong and not, I was like, to hell with that. You're not going to just, it's not falling out on your terms like cancer. I'm going to do it my own way. And so I went up there, I made this big speech. We were at a bar, so I may have had a shot before I did that. But I made this big speech and I told everyone my story, because the ultimate thing for me was to like make people aware, like you need to check your body, listen to your body and follow through with it. And then I sat down and I played like some gangster rap, because that was the only way I was gonna, but I didn't want to play some sad stuff. So I was sobbing up there. And my friend recorded the whole thing, and she cut my ponytail first. And when she showed me, I was like, oh my gosh. This was the other beautiful thing though. At the event, we had a woman that was doing the haircuts, and all of that hair was being donated to make wigs, including mine. Aww. So it wasn't just getting cut. Like it was just multiple things. They're helping me. We're helping other people. Like it was beautiful. And it was like this visceral moment. I don't know. I just can't explain how much, when I looked out and saw this support, I was like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I have so many people. I have strangers here supporting me. I was like, I don't even care if you came out to watch me shave my head because you hate me. Thank you for coming. Like that's how big of a deal it was to me. And when she started shaving it though, I remember putting my hand up and like this part of my head was gone. And you can see it on camera. I'm just like, oh my God, like, oh. But then when I watched the video, because it was so surreal, I hear my friends going, oh my gosh, she looks so great bald.
Aww.
And I was fine, didn't cry until I was done. And I went to walk off the stage and I saw my beautiful sister who had been there and helped throw this, and my two aunts that have been there through everything. Like they freaking lost it. So I lost it. I want to lose it again, but I'm not gonna. And we all just hugged each other, and they like grabbed my face, and my aunt's just like, you look so beautiful. My sister. Aww. And I even had my friend Daniela, who came and took care of me. Well, in fairness, after my mastectomy, like the day after, I went to her wedding with my JPs and all on pain meds, because that's kind of friend I am. And in turn, she came and took care of me for a week. She washed my hair. She helped me take care of my kids. So she was via cell phone because her family came, and I saw her and I started losing it. So like, and then my friend Sarah that threw it, I'll have a lot of Sarahs in my life. They're really good people. If you don't have a Sarah, get you a Sarah. But yeah, I was just super blessed. I was super blessed to have that support. So many people go through it without it. And that's when I felt like I already knew like I needed to start giving back. So that's what happened. I shaved it before I lost it, and I lost it about 3 weeks in. It started falling out.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching right now, the video is definitely already played, so that way you guys can see. And if you don't get emotional along with Krystal when she did at the end, it's something, something so surreal. We kind of sped it up, so we didn't really get the value of, all of it, because it is longer. But they can always go to your social media page and find out, that video, which I love your personality, Krystal. You put some light, but then you humor, and then there is, the emotional and humanizing of it. So I love how you are able to adapt to certain things. And you said something earlier, I wasn't alone, and neither is anyone that's going through it. Whether it's watching this video, whether it's your loved ones, you're not alone in this journey. There's a lot of other women and men that are going through this journey. And so, Krystal, right now, I know you're helping several people that are watching right now. So I kind of want to talk and uncover, that treatment process before we get to the light at the end of the tunnel. But that treatment process, how far apart was it? Those obstacles. You mentioned that the beginning stage was really bad. And I want you to kind of uncover that. Someone watching may be able to relate, or it could help some way, somehow. So let's talk a little bit about that treatment process on your worst.
So during AC chemo, or the Red Devil, it was about 2 days in, because I had a port placed, and you go for hours, you sit in a room full of strangers, all various types of chemo. And especially at my age going in, I had a lot of people staring, but I also had a lot of people talk to me. And I encourage anybody that has to go through this to just be open to that, because I'll never forget the first woman that talked to me. She was actually young. She was roughly, I think, a little older than me, had a daughter my age. And she made that first chemo seem so much less scary. And I will never forget her ever because of that. So like, I know it's scary. I know it's hard. I know you're mad or angry or sad. You're all of these things. You're overwhelmed and you feel like there is no hope. And then it's like, this is all dark. Like, where is the light? And when you go in there and you see that these people are getting poison pumped in, because that's what it feels like. It's just this poison. It's killing this cancer, but it's also killing, a lot of your own cells. You look around and they're still laughing and they're still talking. And some of them have stage 4 cancer and some of them are like, perspective is everything. So I encourage you when you go into these treatments to like be open to that. But my situation, I went in and about 3 days in, I thought I was going to go back to work full time. I'm going to be fine. And no, I was laid up on the couch. I had the worst fatigue I've probably ever experienced in my life. I didn't want to eat. They gave me anti-nausea meds, which helped me some, but I had a massive headache. My whole body hurt. I had to get these injections to keep my white blood cell count up, and it literally makes your bones ache. And so I would go, it was a 2 weeks because AC is so harsh. You go 2 weeks, you get it 1 week, the next week you kind of start to feel a little normal, and then boom, you get it again for 4 weeks. At least that was mine. So I called the weeks that I didn't have chemo, my chemotastic weeks. And I just, those days I didn't want to do anything because it's very easy to fall into like just staying home. I had a lot of help and support with my kids, but like I was miserable some days where I felt like the day would never end because I was so sick and so tired. And like, I didn't want to be around people because I felt like this is mine. I need to do it by myself. And I'd throw myself a pity party of one. Nobody else was invited. I'd have that day. And then after the first couple weeks, the first initial treatment, the first couple weeks, I was like, okay, so I'm going to have a week that sucks, but then the next week I'm going to be kind of okay. And then each time I have a treatment, I'm counting down. So it's 3, 2, 1. And then I heard Taxol was easier. So I was praying to God. I'm like, please just let that be the case. And in my situation, it was. So, I mean, those were the things. But yeah, week 3, I started thinking I shaved my head for nothing because like it was growing back. Like I was starting to grow and everyone loved the G.I. Jane. They're like, you look great. I had people coming up to me. I'm like, I could swing this for a little bit. That's fine. Like, and no, I woke up and I felt like this tingling. I'm like, something's going on. So I laid in the bath and did this and I sat up and there was just these little stubbles all over. And I looked in the mirror and I had like patches of hair gone. And I was like, it's happening. So I freaking took a razor to it and I shaved all of it. And then I was chemo bald. And after that, my eyebrows fell out and my eyelashes fell out. And once again, you are a woman who had your breasts taken. Now your hair is gone. Now you're bald. Now you don't have eyebrows or eyelashes. So I woke up one day and I looked at myself and I was like, I look sick now. I don't even have cancer anymore, but I look like I do. And my biggest thing was not wanting pity. Like, I didn't want people to look at me and see cancer or see me being sick. You know, before when I had the little stubble, they're like, oh, she's edgy. She lives near Austin. Maybe it's a choice. It wasn't, but good thing they thought that. So in the process of that, I actually, and also to like get my kids prepped because throughout all this, I'm trying to stay positive and keep it up for them. I mean, I had my moments, but I'd be like, somebody come get my kids, like a family member, have a fun day with them. Their godparents even put my daughter in like camp for the month so that she got to like spend the summer doing something fun. Like it was such a blessing. But I ended up like talking to my daughter about it. And I was like, okay, mommy's going to be bald because you have to prep them, you know? And I had to be honest, but in a positive way. And my daughter goes, and I quote, ugh, bald people freak me out. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a bald person. So I decided at that point, I was like, let's buy some wigs. And I thought it was just going to be fun. Like I just wear them with her, like we'd play. No, I freaking became obsessed. I bought this wig, the first wig on Amazon. Her name was Candy. She's pink and beautiful. I still have her. I have all my wigs still actually. But it like became this like weird creative obsession. And on my chemotastic weeks, I'd rock these $40, $35 to $40 wigs. They were lace front, and I went on YouTube, I watched how to do it. And so I put my first one on, and I'm like, everyone's going to know it's a wig. Everyone's going to know it's a wig. And so I wore it out on my chemotastic week. I was like, I'm going to go out. I couldn't even drink or do anything because I'm literally like, my liver's on like overdrive, working hard. Thanks, chemo. And I go out with this wig, and I'm like sitting there, and I have people coming up, and they're like, where do you get your hair done? I love your hair. And I'm so concerned about them thinking it's a wig. And I immediately am like, girl, it's a wig. Like, it's a wig. And I told on myself, which I realized, and then I would go to chemo with them. And the women would get a kick out of it because we named all of them. So they'd all have like personalities or accents. And like Lola, she was like this curly pink one. She was like a ham model from up north, and she moved down here with the husband, but then he broke up with her. Anyway, so they'd have these like, it was a way to like just get through it. And so when I was there though at chemo, I had several women who didn't know a lot about technology. They were older women. They're like, where did you get your wig? And they spent like several $100s to thousands of dollars on a wig they hated. And I'm like, I went online and got a wig. And one of the brands I really, really like is Krysma, Kryssma, Krysma on Amazon. Those are the ones I got. Like, I go on there. And so I'm like, you know what, ladies, add me on Facebook. I'll make a tutorial showing you what I do to put them on, because I knew they wouldn't get on YouTube or anything. So that was the easiest way. I literally did it for like these two specific women. And then I put it on YouTube and I put it on my Facebook, and it gets like several thousand views or a couple thousand views. And out of nowhere, October's like rolling around, and I get SA Live calls for their breast cancer awareness month. And they're like, we saw your wig tutorial. We'd really like for you to come on. And I'm like, okay. And at that point, I had, during my chemo journey, just to back up for a minute, at my event, actually, I received a card for Pink Warrior. They were called something else at that point, but Pink Warrior Advocates, Jen Reynolds. And I was like, maybe I should call them because I need some support and I'm in a bad place. And so I freaking call, and Jen Reynolds, the founder of this, first of all, I think she said like a curse word immediately. And I was like, my people. Okay. And she was just real. And she's like, let's meet for lunch. And I was like, okay. And this woman runs like a nonprofit, a big breast cancer nonprofit in New Braunfels. I'm like, she has time to meet me. So I go and meet her. I find out that she was diagnosed in early 30s, I believe 31. Sorry, Jen, if I got that wrong. But with breast cancer. And she felt so alone that she started a blog, and then she started this breast cancer nonprofit so that no other woman had to feel alone. And so I meet her, and I'm like, she told me that she was diagnosed within the last, I think, 6 months at that point with stage 4 breast cancer. Wow. And so I'm looking at her and I'm like, you're freaking my spirit animal. Like, how are you this strong? You're doing all the things, like you're taking a horrible situation, this ugly disease, and you're making something so beautiful that can help so many women. And in that moment, I'm like, whatever I need to do to be part of it, that's what I need to do. And I'm still going through chemo and feeling sick, but it was like a light switch went off and everything kind of like fell into place. Like I needed to be part of that. And so when I got the call about the wigs, I'm like, this is a way to get like Pink Warrior Advocates involved and get the word out about them and get Jen involved. Cause every woman, side note, everyone doesn't want to wear wigs. They're hot. We live in Texas. I didn't wear a wig all the time, guys. I rocked my bald head because let me just tell you, if you can walk around with bald, no hair, you can wear any hair you want, mullet, whatever, do it, live it up, because you can do it. Like I'd have these crazy colored, try it, have fun. But if you don't want to wear a wig, more power to you. I know women that did scarves, did beanies, did the bald thing. I kind of did a combo. And I really actually learned to love myself through all of this, because I'm like, I'm not walking around like, you take everything that makes me a woman and I'm still going to hold my head up strong. And I realized that I had more compliments during chemo than I ever have because of that. So anyway, Jen went on the show with me and she did a session. I did a wig tutorial. She did a scarf tutorial. And that was like, I'll never forget that time because we rode together and everything. And like, that was when the bond really started. And like, literally since then, I've just like, she's one of my best friends now. She's my sister in this. Like, you become family when you go through this. It's like you could be from any walk of life, and when you go through breast cancer and you meet somebody like who's gone through it, that's the one thing, this ugly disease, that's the one beauty, like the beautiful part that you have to like hang on to. And so since then, it's the rest is history. Now I'm part of it.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And wow, let's start off with how powerful everything that you just said is. I know our viewers got to watch, some of those tutorials. So during this difficult time, you still found a way, Krystal, to not just empower yourself, but other women, which is awesome. Like, I love to hear that. So you guys got to watch that tutorial, one of many that you did on your social media. You made tips and videos for women that are going through the same fight as you, and helping them and teaching how to put on a wig, how to make it look a little bit more natural to where you're more comfortable. We also got to see that essay live that you were featured on, where you were talking about the wigs and she was talking about the scarf. It's all on the screen. And, again, you can go on Krystal's page to learn more about it. Now, this kind of introduces the Pink Warrior Advocates. And this is now it ended up being your community that you leaned on, right? There's lots of groups, organization, and people that really help along the way of this journey. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's groups and organization is different. And you found Pink Warrior Advocates. So I want you to talk to those viewers that are watching and that might be going through the same thing. What services does Pink Warrior Advocates offer, and what do they do for someone that's going through this?
Well, first of all, and to me, the main thing that I needed from it and what I got from it was the support system of people that understand. Because look, cancer is not the only hard thing out there. There are women or men that are, abused, or they have, there's so many different support groups. And until you meet people that are in a common situation, I don't feel like you really understand. You don't feel like other people understand you. Like, your loved ones support you, but they feel sad for you or they worry about you. And when you meet someone else who's gone through it, you don't get like a bunch of pity from them. You get I understand what that feels like, which is so like powerful. So the number one thing is support. Like, that is what Pink Warrior Advocates is all about. We're based in New Braunfels and the surrounding hill country areas, San Antonio, Austin, but we also do a lot of things like chemo care kits. So like in the community specifically, we'll send out chemo care kits. If you know somebody that is in that area and wants a chemo care kit, you go to Pink Warrior Advocates, www.pinkwarrioradvocates.org, or you can find us on Facebook, or you can find me and I'll tell you how to do it. But we do that. We do nationwide mastectomy kits. So it doesn't matter if you're in our area or not. If you know someone that is going through a double mastectomy, we send them a kit that can help with that. Because Jen's been through it, and a lot of the people on the board, which I'm also a member of now, we know what people need in these situations. In the chemo care kits, for instance, I had a lot of problems with my skin because of chemo, and it became super sensitive. It's never really gone back. We put like organic makeup in there, eyebrow pencils, like things you wouldn't think that you'd need, but we put those types of things in this chemo care kit. Things that kind of help combat natural things that help combat like nausea. And if nothing else, again, it's just to like raise somebody's spirit, lift their spirit, and know like, hey, you're not alone, and here is something that can help you with this. And then in the mastectomy kits, we have a mastectomy pillow, which is really vital. And like when you're first recovering, you hug it when you do things to not strain. There's also these little cute bags. They're all like super cute patterns that you can put your JP drains in. That way they're not hanging. And then several other things. So that's one. Those are just a couple of things. But then on top of that, we do one of our biggest things, which unfortunately COVID's kind of put a bit of a damper on, but we're hoping that this next event we have coming up is going to help kind of make up for that. We used to give financial assistance up to $10,000 a month away to women in our community and surrounding areas. So we're talking, I had support, right? There are so many women that don't have support, that don't have family. So if their mortgage is behind or they need to pay their chemo treatments, we will literally call and like pay their chemo treatment. We'll pay to keep their lights on. We even have an emergency fund that if that happens and they're like, hey, we're getting evicted, we will do our best to try and make sure that they get to have their house. You know, we'll buy them groceries. Like, that is what we do. And every month up until, again, COVID hit, we were doing $10,000 a month. And that's our goal. That's what we hope to get to again. So, and then we also have something, which is like metastatic, it's for metastatic women with stage 4. So it's like we make one of their wishes come true. And we have a special thing just for that. And we've like given a woman a car or sent a woman and a bunch of her girlfriends on a trip that she always wanted to take. And all of these things, again, like, it's selfish in a way for me, because like it is a way for me to help others and fulfill myself. But we actually recently this year changed the name to Pink Warrior Advocates. And I feel like it's so much more fitting, because going to these groups and meeting these women, like, yeah, you see me now, Krystal, who's like dealt with it, and I'm on the other side. But like, first coming in, you're terrified. And some people are mad and they don't want to look at other people that have it, because then that means they have to acknowledge that they have it. Like, there is so many ranges on that emotion, and none of them are wrong. Feel what you need to feel. And there's nothing wrong with being depressed or being angry or being mad or feeling like it's unfair. None of that is wrong. It's all okay. But you watch the growth. And the biggest part of like the Pink Warrior Advocates thing is like, I can't even tell you how many women, including myself, that have been on one end of it where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, to now I'm advocating for other women, which empowers me and makes me feel like I have a say, I have control. And I absolutely love that. Like, that is, if nothing else, that is what Pink Warrior has given me. On top of that, like an amazing, even more like a family of breast cancer warriors. Like, I can't.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love to hear how, you've grown also just coming in, and then how you are an advocate right now. So for those that either want to help, that want to donate, or are going through a similar journey, can you please share that contact information? We're also going to put it on the screen, so that way you guys have that help. But that way they can reach out and, get the proper help that you guys offer.
Yeah, so www.pinkwarrioradvocates.org. Go there. It can take you into, it'll give you contact information for myself, Jen Reynolds, and Desiree Hahn, who's the vice president. It'll also there's links if you need financial assistance, if you want a chemo care kit, if you want a mastectomy kit. You can also find us on Facebook, Pink Warrior Advocates. And again, worst case scenario, Krystal, and I would be under Krystal Lee. Mine is for the most part pretty public. Find me, and I have a ton of links for Pink Warrior. And yes, it's freaking Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I'm going to plug this. If you want to support PWA, I 100% vouch for us. Like, please support women with breast cancer. This is an amazing nonprofit organization that it legitimately goes back to women just like me. So if you're going to pick one, Pink Warrior Advocates is definitely the one to pick. I'm a little partial, but I'm just saying.
No, that's awesome and beautiful. And we definitely want to support as well. And we support, people that are going through this journey. Now, I just kind of want to empower you, Krystal, because your story has affected many. We do have a lot of comments that, you are having such a great story that I just couldn't interrupt it, but I have to kind of let you know the love that you're getting. So I do have Maria saying, I'm so emotional just listening to your story. You're such a strong woman and mother. I have Darren saying, thank you for coming on the show, Krystal. You are a fighter. I have Krystal saying, Krystal, you are so brave and courageous. Thanks for sharing your journey, sending hugs. I've been saying, love hearing your story, and thanks for sharing. I'm sure there's more coming up, but, I kind of want to touch base on this last token. Tell us what November of 2019 means to you, Krystal.
So November of 2019 was my last chemo treatment. And it was amazing. I was so happy to be done with chemo. And I actually got, because of my wigs and everyone knew how like invested I was, I had a wig out party, and like all of my closest friends came and they wore my wigs. Even the guys like got into it. And we had like this big party to celebrate. And, I just, again, it was like a closing chapter of that. And it was once again an emotional thing because I got to see all the support that I had. And now I have my hair back and my eyebrows back and my eyelashes back and curls, chemo curl. It's a thing, guys. It used to be straight, but my fight's not over and my journey's not over. And my biggest thing is to help empower other women and be part of something bigger than me. So I want everyone to know you're not alone. That's the biggest thing. If you can get nothing else from this, it's that you are not alone. You have options and you need to advocate for yourself and find people that will advocate for you. Pink Warrior Advocates is mine and in my area. And again, I don't care where you live. You could live in Canada or England. And if you see this randomly and you want to reach out, absolutely, I will talk. I work nights, so it can even be at night. I don't care. But I do want to say real quick, Pink Warrior Advocates, we're having a huge event. And this is the one because COVID tried to ruin everything. Hiya. But we ended up doing something called the Worst Town Hoedown. And it is going to be super, super exciting. And it's socially distanced, but I have to plug it. I'm sorry, I got it. It is a huge event at a drive-in theater. If you've ever heard of Bras for a Cause, we couldn't do that this year. We usually partner with Women's Council Realtors of Hill Country, and they do Bras for a Cause, and they help donate back to Pink Warrior. But this time, we're partnering, and we're going to do the Worst Town Hoedown, and everyone's going to be at a drive-in theater. But we have these very handsome men. Some are firemen, some are cops, and some are just straight up cowboys. And they're going to be strutting their stuff in these big old hats that are decorated. And it's going to be amazing. They're going to be honoring 13 different women who are breast cancer warriors. And it's like my life. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster, laughing, crying, partying. So if you're in the area or you want to come to New Braunfels, it's going to be October 22nd. We still have general admission tickets. You can find that looking up Worst Town Hoedown on Facebook, or again, look up Pink Warrior Advocates and we can find that, or hit me up and I'll let you know. But we're hoping to raise a lot of money for that. And I also just want to say we have Jen Reynolds, myself, and Stacey Gonzalez, which this is for anyone. We're doing a podcast. We actually have already recorded, and it's called Finding Our Breast Selves. We have not put one out yet, but we're hoping to have one out by the end of October. And unlike this, it's going to be a lot racier. We're raw and we're real because, there's a lot of things that go into having breast cancer, especially young. It affects your relationships, your sex, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being. And there's going to be cursing and things like that. So I'm going to forewarn you. But if you're looking for a sisterhood that gets it and want to hear, we talk about options. We talk about different types of surgeries. We talk about emotions. We talk about sex. We talk about everything. Look for Finding Our Breast Selves. Jen Reynolds, Stacey Gonzalez, and myself. It's again, even for people that have a family member going through it, it might give you a different perspective. So,
and where will that be airing for those that are wanting to watch that podcast?
We're trying to get it out by the end of this month. We've already recorded multiple. Jen is enjoying her life right now. I think she's in Aruba because she loves flamingos. That's like her thing. And so she got to actually, it was a bucket list, go to Aruba finally, since the whole COVID thing's gotten a little better, and is spending her days on the beach with that. So she hasn't released it yet, and I don't blame her, girl. Enjoy those flamingos. But we're hoping to just keep looking for it. And again, you'll be able to find it on our social media for sure. And I'll be putting it on mine as soon as it's aired.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Krystal. I do have a couple more comments. I have Kim saying, so inspirational. I've laughed and cried and learned so much listening to this conversation. Thank you, Krystal. And I have Alora saying, I love you so much, Blanche.
Oh, that's my girl. We're the Golden Gals. Me, Jen, Desiree, because we all have the short hair except one, and I get to be Blanche. I wonder why.
Yay. Awesome. No, I love it. Look, you are so amazing, Krystal. Your spirit and your strength are simply amazing. Your personality and your positivity radiates through hope. I like that, you also find a way to help people that are in need. So, Krystal, if you had to leave our viewers with a piece of advice, with whatever encouraging words you have, what would you leave them with today?
I would say I said this going in. This is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway because I don't care. I was asked an inspirational quote whenever I was talking to different people and doing different events. And the very first day I was at my oncologist, I went into the bathroom and I'm going pee, I'm sitting there, and I look at the wall. So weird that that's what it was. But it's like that. There's this saying on the wall, and it was about life's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And I feel like that applies to everyone right now, not just breast cancer, but like that is gold. That was gold. I found it on a toilet and it's still gold and I don't care. Like, you can't wait. Stop waiting for COVID to end or for cancer to be done you need to, like, you can have those moments, but it's up to you. That's the controllable aspect. Like, be happy in the moments, like enjoy the little things and appreciate the little things, because the storm might not pass. The storm might last a long time. And like, if you can learn to dance in the rain, then you're going to be able to like take on anything. And that is like the biggest thing I want people to know. And again, like for people going through this or knowing someone that goes through this, you are not alone. You don't have to be alone. Please, please try to reach out and know that you have options. And as a young 32-year-old woman with nobody in her family that had cancer, I'm sitting here telling you, I had to follow up and I had to advocate for myself. If you feel like something is wrong with your body, if you find a lump and your doctor is saying you're too young, go to another doctor, because those women that I just said, including Jen, Allura, and multiple other women that I know, they are under the age of 30 or 40 years old. And that's like, they don't even say mammograms until I think over the age of 40, 45. You need to go see somebody else and do not stop until you get the answer that you need, please.
Yes. Love those encouraging words, Krystal. You nailed it. That was awesome. So I like to piggyback off of what you said. We want to remind everyone that you are not alone in your journey. Things can get tough, but there are many groups, organizations, and even breast cancer survivors that want to help. So thank you, Krystal, for being so open and sharing your journey with us. I think we all kind of laughed and, got sad with you, but I love it. I love how you're able to dance in the rain. It means a lot to Talk to Me Tuesday and our viewers that you have that trust in us. Count on us to walk along your side of your journey and many others as well. So thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and sharing this special show. Be part of the conversation by liking and commenting this video. The more we spread the knowledge, the more likely we are to help someone that's in need. Until next time.